I hated Elmer Forster for over 20 years. As a result, Elmer Forster said he liked me. Rivals turn into pillow people. Is Elmer Forster crazy or am I crazy? Afterward, Elmer Forster pinned me down on the bed and hung me in a dilemma. He pressed me and asked, "Do you like me?" Damn, I don't like it. The spring festival is approaching. I pouted and tended to the bonsai in front of the flower shop, hoping that they would sell it for a good price. A clear, familiar voice sounded above my head. "Jennifer Sassoon, what are you doing?" I was startled, and when I got up and looked back at the still flat face, my mood plummeted. It's my childhood rival Elmer Forster. I rolled my eyes. Dealing with a murder scene. Elmer Forster, the classic someone else's kid. I live in my house opposite the door. I have good grades since I was a child. I am polite. I am good looking, and I am still a black belt in Taekwondo. The fathers and villagers of 10 miles and 8 towns like him. It's just me very dislike. There is no other reason. Every time the test results come down, my family cries, and his family laughs. I muttered into the store, and the wind chimes on the door rattled. I turned my head to glare at him. "What are you doing here?" "I just returned home." "So what? Eat with me." Elmer Forster had the same flat smile on his face as he did when he was a child, and I was annoyed when I looked at it. Every time he laughed like that, I didn't have any good fruit to eat. When I was in kindergarten, he smiled like this and gave me the octopus ham in the lunchbox, and I was immediately allergic after eating it. And later I learned that he had peanut butter in the lunchbox, and the ham was close to each other. When I was in elementary school, he smiled like this and pulled me to see the bird's nest he found, and it turned out that a bubble of bird's poop fell on my head and stinked for a long time. I didn't go under a tree for many years. When I was in junior high school, he smiled and handed me a pink envelope, and as soon as I took it, I was spotted by the dean and chased me 3 floors after me. Not to say that I had seduced Elmer Forster. I was so angry that I didn't speak to him for 3 days. I didn't see the letter either. It was confiscated by the director and torn up on the spot. When I was in high school, I don't really want to say it. Forget it. There is no university, because he went abroad for college. One by one, they turned from my mind, and now they subconsciously avoided his smile. Big brother, you just returned to China and didn't go to your parents. Why don't you go to me for dinner? I haven't told them yet. I have a shop. Then I'll wait for you to get off work. He sat in my shop from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. I sat hungry and gave in first. Let's go. Let's go eat. This kind of weather is too suitable for eating hot pot. I was sitting in front of the tumbling red soup grinning and eating hairy belly, which had just been fished out of the pot, and it was so hot that I fried it in my mouth several times before I got down, full of warmth and lust. No, homesickness. I suddenly remembered, and asked Elmer Forster, "Why didn't you tell your uncle and aunt when you returned home? Shouldn't a perfect kid like him be the first to go home?" "I don't want them to know." Elmer Forster opened a bottle of cold Coke and handed it to me, taking a sip to refresh my body. "Why?" "Because they are urging marriage." Poof! The Coke that Elmer Forster had just opened with his own hands landed on his face in another way. I coughed and blushed, and while covering my mouth, I took a tissue to wipe his face. He grabbed my wrist, took the tissue and wiped it himself, and patted me on the back with his free hand. As for it, ahem, why not? It took me a long time to get angry. How old are you to start urging marriage? Elmer Forster stared at me meaningfully, curling on my back, and looked away wryly. Maybe it's because I'm not productive. Nonsensical. Elmer Forster is not productive. C has sent 8 articles, which is not out yet. I pouted, didn't say anything, and continued to scoop up the rotten taro in the pot out of the hot pot restaurant. People are a lot more sober when the cold wind blows. I was afraid of the wind, so I ducked behind Elmer Forster and followed him without asking where he was, until he deliberately took me to a telephone pole and hit it. Luckily, I was quick to react and stopped, half a step away from the pole to avoid a headache. Elmer Forster. It's not stupid. He smiled at me, and the street lamp shone behind him, and his hair was glowing. Pretty, but under-flattened. I ignored the strangeness in my heart and chased after him. Then his foot slipped and fell into the warm embrace of hot pot. My heart was beating like a drum, and I couldn't tell if I was scared or something else, and I couldn't tell if it was mine or his. Hey, How long are you going to hang on me? Annoyed. Why is this person so tall? Every time he speaks, it comes from the top of his head. It's weird. I came out of his arms, and if nothing else, it was a little cold. When I first came out, some unproductive thoughts were kicked out of my head, and I asked, aren't you going home tonight? Of course not. And where are you staying tonight? Stay at your house. I stood still looking at him, and did not speak. Elmer Forster learned to exaggerate his tone. No, no, Stella won't take me in. Stella is my nickname, and it's the first time I've pronounced it out of Elmer Forster's mouth. The heat burned up my cheeks, and I kicked him. Fuck off. He skipped straight past him and jumped on one foot, hugging his knees on the spot, and walked forward, trying to let the wind blow away the abnormal temperature on his face. It didn't take a few steps before Elmer Forster caught up and walked backwards in front of me. Seriously, I don't have anywhere to go. What's my business? I kicked the pebbles with my head down. Can you bear to see me on the streets? Very forbearing. Indifference kicks the pebbles. JPG. Suddenly, a stone rolled at Elmer Forster's feet, and he couldn't react, and he immediately tripped and fell on his back. The funny look was so funny that I couldn't help but laugh. Laughing. Then take me in. Elmer Forster got up with a smile, and bent slightly over my face. Don't stop laughing. I also took a picture and prepared to post it in Building 12 of Xinhua Community. That night, he followed me to the door of my apartment. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I moved out on my own after graduating from college. Elmer Forster came lightly and didn't bring anything. I rummaged through the cabinets and couldn't find a pair of men's underwear for him. Elmer Forster was very happy to look at it, ordered some underwear for takeout, and went to the shower with a smaller bathrobe. Be all abroad. I started looking for pillows, sheets, and sofas again. Tired and sweaty, I turned my head, and Elmer Forster burst into my sight with his upper body bare. Drops of water from her hair slid down her wheat-colored chest, over her even abs, and into her white bathrobe. Ami's face turned red instantly, and I grabbed a pillow and threw it at him. Elmer Forster took the pillow and patted it, then looked down at himself. Isn't it pretty? I've been practicing for a long time. Ugly, you exhibitionist. I immediately rushed into the room. No way. The bathrobe is too small for me to wear. Elmer Forster's long voice chased after me. That dead pervert. I leaned against the door panel to breathe calmly, and suddenly remembered that there was only one bathroom in the house. Outside. In other words, I have to see that dead pervert side again. Depend on. I opened the door with a dead face and a solemn face. Break the defense as you pass by the living room. Jennifer Sassoon. Did you get the underwear? There was a bright smile in the slightly hoarse and lazy voice. I immediately checked the clothes in my hand, and they were all there. Elmer Forster. This happened when I was a child. Once in junior high school, my parents were working overtime, and the water heater at home was broken, and I didn't respond for a long time. There was no choice but to go to the opposite door, Elmer Forster's house, to borrow a bathroom. As a result, he forgot to take his underwear, but his parents were not at home. I squirmed for a long time, so long enough that Elmer Forster thought I was fainting in the bathroom, so I asked him to help me get my underwear. At that time, the underwear was cute, printed with the pattern of a rabbit and a kitten. I was ashamed at the time. Now I just feel ashamed to explode. I stood under the shower head, and tried to get the water to drench me. Elmer Forster's return to China was discovered by his parents. I got up early the next morning, and went to open the shop. The spring festival is getting closer and closer, and many grandparents who get up early will take a potted plant back when they are walking. But, Elmer Forster, why are you still following me? I have nowhere to go. Don't you have any friends you need to meet? I had a little breakdown, and always felt like something wasn't quite right. No, I've seen everything I should see. Tut. Then, at noon that day, when my mom came to bring me food, she met with Elmer Forster. At that time, Elmer Forster was sitting in a straight position. He turned back into the good boy that his parents praised so much. Who can understand how tired I was from holding back a smile next to me? I don't blame me. My mom always delivers food randomly, and I don't know if she delivers it or not. Hello, Auntie. The well-behaved and sensible Elmer Forster has a smiling face, and is a winner when it comes to lickability. Elmer Forster is back. I didn't say a word, just came back. Auntie. Elmer Forster took my mom's lunchbox, and gave her mom a couch. Look, I haven't prepared much food yet. Elmer Forster is still kind to me, but not to me. Jennifer Sassoon won't tell me about it. Do you blame me too? Auntie, don't blame Jennifer Sassoon. I came back too suddenly. Whoa, good standard green tea flavor. Okay mom, didn't you also ask Aunt Jong to do beauty together? I pushed my mom outside, still thinking about Elmer Forster's meal. Oh, he's so big that he eats by himself. You can go quickly. Finally, under Elmer Forster's dead face, I was forced to share my meal with him. I didn't have enough to eat, and in the afternoon I added afternoon tea, and Elmer Forster paid for it. That night, Elmer Forster went back to his house, and I was finally able to enjoy my time off work again. I'm slumped on the couch scrolling through my phone. Somehow, I suddenly remembered that Elmer Forster slept here last night. It's a bit like sitting on pins and needles. I shook my head. Damn Elmer Forster, it's hurtful. Immediately after that, my mother sent me a message, telling me to close early tomorrow, and go to dinner as a family. Of course, I gladly agreed. Not necessarily if Elmer Forster was there. I arrived a little late at the agreed address. Listening to the pleasant conversations inside, a question mark slowly popped up above my head. Then I opened the door and saw my parents, Elmer Forster, sitting at a round table with nothing, and saluting me at the same time. Whoa, the hell of social fear. Mrs. Forster was quick to respond. Jennifer Sassoon is here. Come on, sit down and let's order. That's all right. That's why I'm next to Elmer Forster. I kept touching my shoulders when I was picking up vegetables, and last night Elmer Forster's well-proportioned figure suddenly came to mind. I was holding the chopsticks for a moment, and my face seemed to burn again. Depend on. What's wrong? Elmer Forster asked me in a low voice, leaning closer. I pushed the person away with a cold face. It's okay. Chatted during the banquet, and talked about marriage. I was suffering, when I was suddenly named. Jennifer Sassoon is 24 years old. Right. Do you have someone you like? Ahem. I choked on the spot. Elmer Forster was patting me on the back again. As everyone knows, all this is not the same thing in the eyes of parents. Jennifer Sassoon hasn't gotten the hang of it yet. Does Elmer Forster have a crush on anyone? Hearing this, I squinted at him. Yes, Elmer Forster responded generously. I withdrew my gaze, my thoughts drifting a little farther away. Elmer Forster's crush is not the one in high school. Elmer Forster has been a school personality since he was a child. I was so inconspicuous standing next to him. The gap grows with age, and it is so complete that it is impossible to ignore it when I am in high school. Everyone knows that Elmer Forster in class 6 has an ordinary little plum named Jennifer Sassoon in class 2. In the past 3 days, people have asked me to deliver things, love letters, snacks, everything, and even asked me to help with Elmer Forster's study notes. It was okay at first, but it was a little annoying after a long time. Fortunately, Elmer Forster never bothered those people, and the love letters and snacks all ended up in the trash, and only the study notes were borrowed. I always thought so, until I saw Elmer Forster take a love letter from Irene Pulitzer. Irene Pulitzer had just shown at the art show 2 days ago, with a white gauze dress and an elegant piano, and she sat there playing like an escaped princess. At this time, the princess was handing Elmer Forster a light green envelope. The wind rustled through the treetops, and I hid around the corner, the shadows separating me from them. They stood in the corridor, standing in the sun, and the white school uniform was the banner of youth. And when the wind blew, it looked good. I saw Elmer Forster take the letter with a smile and smile at me, as he always did. Talented and beautiful. I looked uncomfortable, like someone pulling my heart and soaking it in lemon juice, soaking it up, soaking it, and then fishing it out and kneading it hard. It's sour to death. On the way home, we walked together as usual. Yes, during the day. We are only together during the school and school days. I silently waited for Elmer Forster to throw the light green letter in the trash, as he had done before, but he didn't. He didn't even notice something wrong with me, and we didn't even quarrel today. He seemed to be in a good mood, and even sang a little song until we parted at the top of the staircase. What do you think? Elmer Forster waved his hand in front of me. I came back to my senses. It's still a little uncomfortable to think about Irene Pulitzer now. And the look in Elmer Forster's eyes is pinched between guns and sticks. Some of the unhappiness that I can't even explain myself. You really don't have anyone you like? Yes. Which pot is not opened? Which pot is not mentioned? It's like you. It's a lot of romance. Where do I have? Why don't you? The more he talked, the more angry he became, and his voice became a little louder if he didn't control it. Several parents looked at me at the same time. I'm speechless. It's still Elmer Forster, who messes around. I was so annoyed that I just wanted to leave quickly and find a place to rest after the meal, maybe to get drunk. The two middle-aged couples each hailed a taxi and left. I wanted to go too, but was pulled by Elmer Forster. Why aren't you happy? Now I know I'm unhappy. How I didn't know when I received Irene Pulitzer's love letters. I rolled my eyes inwardly. I'm not unhappy. I'm going home. Go get a drink. I wanted to refuse, but I didn't say it. So he was dragged by Elmer Forster to a bar. Soothing music. Men and women talking in low voices. Boring. I backhanded Elmer Forster to a bar. The kind of singing and dancing. I've been to this store a few times with my friend Amelia. Later, Amelia fell in love with the boss, and I became familiar with each other here. And there was a special booth to play. Someone greeted me as I walked in. Jennifer Sassoon. Old rules. I walked in front of me, completely oblivious to Elmer Forster's black face behind me. My booth is fenced off by a screen, so it's dark and darker. After a while, the boss came in with a bucket of cold wine, and caught a glimpse of Elmer Forster standing next to him. You still bring someone. It's fun. I opened a bottle and took a few sips, and it was so cold and spicy that I squinted my eyes. Elmer Forster sat down next to me and took a bottle in his hand. You come here often? I don't come very often. It's true. After Amelia won the boss, she rarely accompanied her. Elmer Forster didn't say anything, and I didn't bother to pay attention to him, so I drank most of the bottle to myself. Feeling a little drunk, I looked at Elmer Forster with my face propped up, and I rarely looked at him well. Elmer Forster, aren't you drinking? Elmer Forster silently slammed open the bottle and threw his head back. The way the Adam's apple slides up and down is sexy. Thinking about it, I touched it. After touching it, we were both stunned. Elmer Forster looked at me and moved his legs unnaturally. I'm even more unnatural. I looked away and continued to drink, and when I finished one bottle and was about to open another one, I was stopped by Elmer Forster. Jennifer Sassoon, you're drunk. I didn't. You have. Elmer Forster pressed my hand for a moment. Elmer Forster, I hate you. Elmer Forster sighed, took his coat and wrapped it around me, and pulled me to leave. At the checkout, I was told that the boss had invited. I didn't know which tendon was wrong, and my face was black, and my arm hurt, but I couldn't shake it off. After walking like this, I couldn't hold my back and let out a protest voice. Elmer Forster. The man woke up from a dream and let go of me. Halfway through, my feet started to hurt, and I refused to take the bus home. Elmer Forster couldn't help it, so he took off my shoes, and carried them in his hands, and carried me on his back. I leaned on his warm shoulders and whispered to him, Elmer Forster, what are you doing? Elmer Forster. I'm here. Elmer Forster, I hate you. Why do you hate me? I shut up and refused to say anything. The cold wind blew, and I leaned on him with a little daze, as if I was drunk. Elmer Forster had to carry his shoes, and hold me to prevent me from falling. And the posture of entering the password was quite weird. For a moment, though, I wondered how he knew the password. But drunk people have too limited thinking skills, and I have forgotten this question in the blink of an eye. Elmer Forster put me on the couch. Can you clean up after yourself? I lay down in the arc of the couch like a bone. Obviously not. I beckoned to him. Elmer Forster, stay close to me. Come closer. Close enough that our breaths were intertwined. I looked him in the eye and pouted and kissed him. Elmer Forster cursed under his breath. He pinched my cheek and kissed me, and conquered the city. Jennifer Sassoon, you'd better remember tomorrow. It's a pity that I drank Stubbs. The next day I slept until 3 o'clock in the morning. When he rubbed his head and went out, Elmer Forster was sitting on the couch and slapping on his computer. When he saw me coming out, he motioned for me to eat. There were several bags on the table, and it was steaming. I picked a porridge and opened it. Why are you at my house again? I sent you back last night, and it was too late to clean up, so you slept here? Yes. He glanced at me and said lightly, I also changed the clothes on your body. Damn, you're not a hooligan. I glared at him. Elmer Forster laughed angrily. Jennifer Sassoon, you're being unreasonable. How am I unreasonable? I don't know what to do. Forget it. I'm too lazy to ponder. I still have a headache, so I continue to drink porridge. Elmer Forster took his computer and sat down across from me. Jennifer Sassoon, you forgot. What did you forget? My memory is only as long as the second before the wine goes down my throat. You're mad at me. After that, he slammed the door and left, and the noise was quite loud. I didn't see him all day, and I wasn't able to relax. I was busy chattering about several potted plants and bouquets in the store, and I didn't go home until 12 o'clock in the evening. Then pick up a drunken Elmer Forster at the door. Hey, I kicked him. He was blushing, sitting in front of my house with his eyes closed and his neck bent, his long legs taking up a large area. I called the police. With that, he took out his mobile phone and prepared to make a call. The man on the ground opened his eyes slightly, and then immediately closed them. I dragged people through the door with a bang. The big man was too heavy, and I was so tired from walking these 2 steps that I was panting. I'm gritting my back molars and thinking about how to kill people without breaking the law. Elmer Forster staggered to his feet. The next second, he was stunned and planted at me, pressing me on the sofa. Damn. For a split second I felt like my lungs were exploding. Why do you hate me? Elmer Forster's head was squeezed around my neck, his voice hoarse, and the hot breath was blowing near my ears. I nudged him, motionless. Why do you hate me? He repeated, his head still rubbing against my neck, the top of his shaggy hair sweeping over my cheeks, a little itchy. Jennifer Sassoon, why do you hate me? Sure enough, is the essence of human beings a repeater? Elmer Forster has a great deal of momentum that doesn't give up without getting an answer. Because your test scores are always higher than mine, I am always scolded by my mother. Okay, I nudged him again. It's not this. There is also a prescribed perfect score answer. Because, damn, Elmer Forster, don't rub me. Is this guy doing it on purpose? My lips brushed against my neck and cheeks. I pushed him to the ground with my hands and feet. Elmer Forster slammed his head to the floor. He bred himself up, one hand touching the back of his head, and stared at me with drunken eyes. What a simple and innocent face. A sentence suddenly slipped through my mind. The man is drunk for 3 points, and the performance breaks your heart. I grabbed Elmer Forster's collar and said, Elmer Forster, are you really drunk? Who knew that he suddenly held my hand, put it on his face, and rubbed it. It seems to be really drunk. I don't want to play with the drunkard anymore. I pulled out my hand and prepared to leave. Who knew that the drunkard still wanted to play? So he grabbed me and slammed it hard. I was caught off guard and fell into his arms. My chin slammed into my bulging chest, and I almost bit my tongue. The smell of alcohol was overwhelming, and it stank to death. He moved quickly, wrapping his hands around my waist and hugging me tightly. Jennifer Sassoon, don't hate me. I poked him. If you don't want me to be annoying, don't take Irene Pulitzer's love letters. Elmer Forster was silent. I struggled to look up at him, and he was motionless with his eyes closed, as if he were asleep. The hand around his waist slowly loosened his strength. Recall. After parting at the staircase, Elmer Forster was the first to enter the house. I stood at the door for a long time, watching him close the door, unspeakably depressed. For the next few days, I deliberately avoided him and went to and from school alone. Even the physical education class on the same shift, I hid as soon as I was dismissed. Until that day, it was my turn to clean up in the equipment room. When I put a racket, the door to the equipment room suddenly closed. Elmer Forster approached me with a dark face. Jennifer Sassoon, are you avoiding me? Nope. Elmer Forster was already tall at this point, and looking at me condescendingly like this made me feel breathless. Then why don't you wait for me to go to school and get out of school? I can't find anyone when I look for you. The pale green envelope choked on his chest, and unconsciously, his words were filled with tears. Elmer Forster, are you bothered? I ran away from him. Another few days without intersection. As usual, I would find a corner of the school to hide after school, and I would not go home until everyone in the school was almost gone, and Elmer Forster should be gone. In the past 2 days, the street lights at the school gate seem to be broken, flickering, and it gets dark quickly, and I am a little scared. There were fewer and fewer students leaving the school, so I grabbed the strap of my school bag and left the school gate through gritted teeth. As soon as he took 2 steps, He was pulled aside by a big hand, and buckled against the wall. Elmer Forster covered most of my face with one hand, leaving only one eye outside. My eyes widened, and my eyes turned red when I saw that it was him. Jennifer Sassoon, are you in love? That kid will let you go home alone. I was so frightened that I gasped and kicked him. Who kid doesn't have to? Elmer Forster followed me. Hey, what do you mean? You haven't answered me yet. Are you in love? He said a lot. Who is it? Is it the class leader of your class? I'll settle accounts with him tomorrow. Seeing that he was talking more and more outrageous, I turned around and kicked him again. I'm not in love. You stayed so late for him from school, and he didn't even take on this responsibility. Didn't fall in love. Then why are you hiding from me? Elmer Forster, don't bother me. Elmer Forster didn't follow me anymore, and that's the end of it. Later, we still went to and from school together, but we always felt like we were separated by a layer. Later, Elmer Forster often represented the school in competitions, and I lived a repetitive life at school. The two of them went farther and farther apart. I've seen it a few times from afar, Elmer Forster and Irene Pulitzer walking together, chatting and laughing. After the college entrance examination, I was working part-time, traveling, and returning to my hometown. Didn't let Elmer Forster find me anyway? He didn't seem to have looked for me much, though. After that, I heard from my parents that Elmer Forster had gone abroad. It was as if there was an empty piece in my heart. I don't want to care about the drunk lying on the ground. I have no intention of being responsible at all, and helping him take off his shoes is my last mercy, and kicked him again without any psychological burden. When I finished cleaning up and closed the door, the living room fell into darkness again. The drunkard opened his eyes, and he was very clear. How could there be a trace of drunkenness? He swiped on his phone, as if looking for something. When I woke up, Elmer Forster was gone, and even the moving coffee table helped me get back to where it was. There were still a few bags on the table, and it was Elmer Forster, who bought breakfast without thinking. Elmer Forster came to the store at noon and told me to order a bouquet of flowers. What type? When? Come and get it tomorrow at this time. For girls, I want a style that is trending now. I bowed my head to tie the New Year's potted plant, and frowned when I heard the words. It didn't make sense, but my first reaction was that Elmer Forster was going to send Irene Pulitzer. I asked him to look at the style drawing of my work number, and I picked it out and told me, a bunch of tweeds, but I chose my own favorite bouquet. I glanced at it and refused without thinking about it. I don't want Elmer Forster to give someone else a bouquet that I like. He didn't force it, and turned his head and picked the most expensive one. I can't do this. I don't have any flowers in the store. It's true, there are not enough flowers in the store. He asked me to look at it and make a bunch, with light green as the main color. Light green, I'm going to give you a cuckold. Although I was a little resentful, I still honestly tied the bouquet of flowers. It doesn't matter who you send. You can't smash the signboard of my flower shop. Even pay extra attention to the packaging. And sure, light green, absolutely light green as his damn love letter. But I didn't expect Elmer Forster to bring Irene Pulitzer to the store to pick up the flowers. Elmer Forster opened the door for Irene Pulitzer and let her in. I haven't seen her for a few years, but Irene Pulitzer is more beautiful, faded from her youth, and her gestures are full of the gentleness of a mature woman. Seeing me smile at me, "You're Jennifer Sassoon, right? Long time no see." Long time no see. I was literally a voice squeezing out of my teeth, like a naughty clown. Jennifer Sassoon, did you get your flowers ready yesterday? Elmer Forster didn't even look at me. His eyes chased Irene Pulitzer the whole time. The prediction came true, and this scene stung my eyes. I blinked, picked up the bouquet I had prepared long ago, and handed it to him. The bouquet sat in Elmer Forster's hands for less than 2 seconds before it reached Irene Pulitzer's arms. It's beautiful. I love it. Thank you, Jennifer Sassoon. No thanks. The flowers were ordered by Elmer Forster. Thank him. We're going to dinner later. Why don't you come along? I bit my lip and looked at Elmer Forster, and saw that the man was facing away from me. Forget it. I'm running a shop. Eat it. Elmer Forster went with Irene Pulitzer. I looked at the backs of the two of them leaving, and I didn't feel good in my heart. The soreness of youth has made a comeback. Sure enough, Elmer Forster's crush was Irene Pulitzer. It dawned on me that I had a lot more affection for Elmer Forster than a normal friend. You just realized. Amelia gave me a blank look. We were sitting in her objects bar, in our exclusive booth. What did I realize? 2 years ago, when you were talking to me about your bamboo horse, I found out. I didn't drink alcohol this time. I was drinking with a glass of juice. At that time, you said that he went abroad, and you may have forgotten about it after I thought about it for a long time, so you didn't mention it. Now it seems that I will forget anything, and I will soon remember it. What? I am not happy with Amelia's rhetoric. How can it be so unproductive and unforgettable? Uncontrollably, I started thinking again. What about Elmer Forster? What was Elmer Forster's idea? But Elmer Forster liked Irene Pulitzer. I told Amelia my conjecture. Amelia searched for the items she had at hand, and finally took the fake flowers on the table and nodded my head. Are you stupid? You and Elmer Forster are childhood sweethearts. Just grab him if you like him, others no. Can it last as long as the two of you? I muttered in a low voice. But there is no distinction between feelings that come first and come first. No avail. You have to twist it to know if it's sweet or not. Amelia bumped into me. Is that your bamboo horse? I looked in the direction she was pointing, and Irene Pulitzer was standing next to him with a smile on her face. Didn't you tell him I was in a relationship with the shopkeeper? I thought about it for a moment and shook my head. Okay, you wait. I'll get you that man. With that, the people ran away, leaving me with a confused face. 18 in the next second, her boyfriend, who is also the owner of this shop, suddenly sat down next to me. My eyes widened as I looked at Amelia, who was hiding in the shadows. She waved her hand and told me to leave it alone, and just sit quietly. The boss put his hand on the back of the chair behind me, and at first glance it looked like he was hugging me. It's too close. I moved uncomfortably. I saw Elmer Forster and Irene Pulitzer walking in my direction again. Apparently they found me too. At this point, the boss suddenly leaned over, and from Elmer Forster's point of view, it seemed to be pressing me. I was pressed against my chair with my hair, unable to move, and even stopped breathing. Relax, my wife said. I have to help you take down the man today. Don't worry, men eat this, the boss whispered. I exhaled shallowly, ready to play the role of a loving couple with him. The boss leaned over for a long time, and in the eyes of outsiders, it would only make people reverie. The boss got up, handed me my juice, and clinked glasses with me. I blushed at the right time. The temperature around me seems to be a little lower. Elmer Forster's face was composed, and his voice seemed to be quenched by ice. Jennifer Sassoon, what are you doing? I looked around and Irene Pulitzer was gone. The boss took an unopened bottle of beer and handed it to Elmer Forster. You're the one Jennifer Sassoon brought last time. Long time no see. I didn't ask you. Elmer Forster tugged at his neckline. My heart jumped. I rarely hear Elmer Forster swearing, and even when I'm playing games, I purse my lips and hold my breath when I'm angry. Jennifer Sassoon, Elmer Forster called me. I ignored him. Brother, don't be so angry. Scares Stella. Elmer Forster suddenly slammed his fist into the boss' face, and in an instant, blood was visible. I was startled and stunned on the spot. The boss wiped the corners of his mouth and punched Elmer Forster with a backhand. The two scuffled, fists to the flesh, muffled sounds, beer bottles shattered to the ground, and the crowd of onlookers stood in a circle. Elmer Forster pressed the boss, his eyes fierce. Is that your name, Stella? Depend on. What a situation. I reacted and hurried to pull the rack. The way Elmer Forster hit the head was so scary that it almost hurt me by mistake. After seeing that it was me, his fist stopped, and he pursed his mouth and squeezed my arm and walked out. His steps were so big that I stumbled several times, and he didn't respond to shouting. I looked back at my boss, and saw that Amelia was helping him, one of them giving me a thumbs up, and the other of them making an okay gesture to me. The two of them deserved to fall in love. Elmer Forster pushed me straight into the back seat. This is his own car. He pressed my wrist above my head, and leaned over to gnaw at me. Yes, it's gnawing. The smell of blood permeated the lips. The more Elmer Forster kissed, the harder it got, and the tip of my tongue tingled. I couldn't take it anymore. Tears rolling in my eyes, I could only slap him desperately with my free hand. Elmer Forster, the bastard, pressed my other hand on top of my head as well. I was so scared that tears were pouring down my face. It was only when the salty taste of Elmer Forster stopped. He pecked me lightly, then the tip of my nose, my cheeks, and the corners of my eyes. He called out to me, Jennifer Sassoon, Elmer Forster, you bastard, Jennifer Sassoon, I like you. I interrupted him, I hate you. Elmer Forster took me to his lap, and wiped my tears from my eyes. I was wrong. I was wrong. Don't hate me. Holding my already red mark wrist back and forth. Does it hurt? I turned my head away and refused to speak. Elmer Forster pulled my head back and looked me straight in the eye. Jennifer Sassoon, look at me. Don't look at it. I closed my eyes. Elmer Forster kissed again. Closing your eyes is a sign to kiss. Speechless, I pushed him away. Find your Irene Pulitzer. I obviously don't want to be so sour, but I still have a sour smell when I open my mouth. Jennifer Sassoon's vinegar jar is overturned. Elmer Forster buried himself in my chest and grinned. I confiscated her love letters, and she didn't take a fancy to me. Don't hate me. Okay, that letter wasn't for me. She asked me to pass it on to the seniors of the same competition group. Do you remember? The one who never wears a school uniform properly. I frowned, sifting through the figure in my head. Forget it. Don't think about it. I don't want you to remember other men. Elmer Forster kissed me again. Wait a minute. So you weren't drunk that day? Jennifer Sassoon will forgive me. Elmer Forster looked innocent. If it weren't for some negligible burning heat against the base of my legs. Back home, Elmer Forster seemed to be insane. Kiss me wherever you go. And kiss me when you catch me. Jennifer Sassoon, you haven't said you like me or not. I don't like it. I was sitting on the couch licking the ice cream, and the tip of my tongue was bitten by Elmer Forster, and it hurt terribly. Elmer Forster's eyes deepened as he looked at me. Jennifer Sassoon, you've got it in your face. Heh. Elmer Forster reached out and wiped it on my cheek, then put it between his lips. The movements are too natural and warm. I blushed with shame. It wasn't until Elmer Forster put him on the bed and pulled something out of his pocket that he realized that the man had been planning for a long time. When did you buy it? When I just bought you ice cream. With that, his hand reached into the hem of his garment. Wait. I can't wait. I'll talk about something later. Shadows overlap. A whimper was heard. Elmer Forster slows down. Jennifer Sassoon, do you like me? I felt uncomfortable, moved my waist, bit my lip and refused to speak. Elmer Forster pressed me. Talk. Like me or not, I don't like it. He chuckled and refused to give me a good time. Feeling uncomfortable and aggrieved, I opened my mouth and bit him. Elmer Forster, you're a bastard. Elmer Forster snorted. Jennifer Sassoon, say you like me. I couldn't take it anymore, and broke down. I like it. The latter words were blocked by Elmer Forster's lips. I snuggled up in Elmer Forster's arms, and counted his actions over the past few days. Bathing is intentional. Getting drunk is intentional. And ordering flowers is also intentional. Elmer Forster, you fooled me, baby. I just like you. Elmer Forster played with my fingers, nail by finger. I like you. I've liked you since I was a kid. I like you with the little octopus sausage. I like you when I take you to see the bird's nest. And I wrote you a love letter when I was in junior high school, but unfortunately it was torn up by the director. I hesitated for a long time, but I still asked the question that I cared about the most. Then why did you go to university abroad? Why? It's been so long since I've come back. You always avoid me. I thought you really hated me, Elmer Forster said aggrievedly. Not long after I went out, I thought you were so bad that I sneaked back to see you, and it turned out that you seemed to be dating another boy. I've been innocent for so many years. When have I ever dated a boy? In the summer of my freshman year, I snuck into your school, and you were drinking coffee with a guy when I went. Ugly that man died. I couldn't figure out why you liked him at the time. I have a little impression, if I'm not mistaken, it's Amelia's brother. She happened to go to the bathroom when you saw it. And then I was heartbroken and went back to studying. As he spoke, he took my hand and touched his chest. But I refused. I studied hard, exercised my body, thought that I must make a lot of money. And when I came back, I couldn't fit other men in my eyes. I burst out laughing. Jennifer Sassoon, did I do that? It's okay. It's good that you're still waiting for me. What if I hadn't waited? No way. I always ask my mother about your dynamics, and I still run back from time to see you in person. And every potential rival has been beaten by me. You can only wait for me. The end.